All right, networkers. All right, networkers, come on back. We've got some more inspirational conversation if you'd like to come back forward and take a seat. Would you consider yourself a geek or a tech enthusiast, somebody like that? You like technology, maybe the intersection of technology and marketing? How many of you like that tech stuff? I'm expecting a lot of hands to go up. One of my favorite things about coming to ad tech, and I've been coming since 1996, mind you, is that it gives me a really nice couple of days of like massive geek saturation, you know, like where can a marketer go and get all the technology you could possibly consume? Right here. And I love that Inspire is not only doing that, but doing it in a bigger, more worldly, more philanthropic way as well. My next speaker I met at AdTech San Francisco a few years ago, Lynne D Johnson. And Lynne at the time was taking fastcompany.com to Uber levels of wonderfulness. And she's gotten involved in SoLoMo. Do you know SoLoMo? Social, local, mobile. The intersection of the fact that we now have to have our phones in our hands at all times. But what's even better than SoLoMo is augmented reality. I'm fascinated by the applications of this, and like most of you, love to know the newest, hottest, most interesting technologies that are coming down the pike. And Lynne's come today to show us who's using augmented reality in the mobile world and what we might be able to do with it next. So please give her a warm welcome, Lynne Johnson. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lynne, and I'm inspired by augmented reality for marketing. Leon? So, first, I thought, is it going to come up here? Oh, okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, all right, okay. So I'm inspired by augmented reality for marketing. And first, I want to talk a little bit about consumer behaviors. If you work in marketing, you know that the purchase funnel has flipped, right? It's completely flipped. The way that people think about shopping has changed. In the moment, while we're shopping, I'm sure you do it yourself. You may tweet a friend, Facebook a friend, ask them about a deal, ask them about what you're buying. You may look up reviews. Just last night, I was teaching a class, and my students had to select books to read in groups. And they went to Amazon, and they went to Google Books, and they looked at reviews, and they said, oh yeah, this must be a good book. 53 reviews, I'm going to purchase it right now, right? The purchase funnel has flipped completely. Consumer behaviors are changing. People are comparing as they shop while they're shopping. They're comparing, they're researching product details while they're shopping. And the mobile phone has become the ultimate shopping tool because of this. Here's a short video from Google about how things have changed.
There's a mobile movement going on. The rise of smartphones is creating smarter consumers, creating more opportunity for smarter marketing. Smartphones are always on, always with us, and always connected. In 1 week, we've browsed the internet, used a search engine, watched a video, and connected with our friends, all on our smartphones. But that's info you might already know. Here's some you might not. We're using smartphones almost everywhere, even while consuming other media. Smartphones have become such an important part of our lives that many of us would give up high heels, cable TV, even chocolate, just to keep using them. They're becoming important to our shopping habits too. Smartphones have become the ultimate shopping companion, transforming us into more savvy consumers. 79% use a smartphone to help with shopping. In fact, 70% of us actually use our smartphone while in the store. We use it to find retailers, compare prices, get coupons, read reviews, and check to see if something's in stock. Which leads us to buy. Nearly 3/4 of shoppers made a purchase as a direct result of the info we got from our smartphones, either in store, online, or on our phone. Our new mobile shopping habits are adding up to big spending across the board. And where do we do most of our shopping? Usually in our own backyards. In fact, finding local information is one of the most popular smartphone activities. We're using our phones to find everything from the nearest pizza place, to movie showtimes, to finding the nearest store that carries the item we're looking for. And 88% of us use that local information and take action within a day, whether to call or visit a local business. Over the past year, mobile search queries have skyrocketed to new heights as we search for everything from product reviews to travel info to random trivia that can help us settle bets with our friends. And while word of mouth or seeing a product in store may lead people to search on smartphones, 71% of us search because we saw an ad, both on traditional media and on our phones, and we're acting on it. 9 out of 10 mobile users have taken action, all thanks to a smartphone search. The simple fact is, mobile ads work. Recall seeing a mobile ad? You're not alone. 82% of us do. Yet 79% of top advertisers don't have a mobile optimized website. It's important to build a good mobile user experience because if we see a mobile ad, we tend to click on the ad, visit the advertiser's site, make a purchase, or call the business. Today we use smartphones to stay connected, to keep us entertained, to search for information on the go, and to make us smarter shoppers. And we're going to be doing a lot more of this, creating more opportunities for marketers to connect with their customers. Don't miss the mobile movement. Mobilize your marketing to reach the new smartphone consumer.
So that's a lovely case for mobile, having optimized mobile sites, for having mobile ads inside of apps and on the mobile web. Beautiful case. But I'd like to take it one step further. I'd like to talk about how we can create experiences for consumers, how we can impact what Google calls the winning at the zero moment of truth, how the moment of truth has changed. As you can see, where I've outlined new marketing strategies, that's where we need to start thinking about our new marketing strategies, at that zero moment of truth. Because the moment of truth has changed, right? It's happening, as I said earlier, from hearing what our friends are saying on Twitter, hearing what they're saying on Facebook, and looking up reviews. So, as Susan said in the intro, I'm talking about looking at the mobile device as something that can bring together social, local, and mobile, and do it really well. Here's some examples of companies that we know that are winning the game by utilizing mobile, social, and local. I'll just pull out one example. Groupon. Groupon has a mobile app to deliver deals. Then the deals are activated when people sign up so they can see what their friends are doing and what deals their friends are talking about. That's the social part. The local, you're connecting to group buying within your own area. Okay, so that's winning there. But the thing about augmented reality is augmented reality makes it even more of an experience. It enhances the usefulness of SoLoMo. 8 months ago, when I was given an augmented reality presentation, I developed this spectrum of AR, and I talked about different types of applications. We won't get a chance to go through all of them today, but I'll go through them briefly. So we all know about SMS and QR codes. You know how there may be a QR code on packaging or an ad you see at the train station, and you hold up your phone, and it takes you to a mobile site or a deal. Well, that's one early, easy level of augmented reality that marketers can think about. But there's also such things as like webcam enhanced experiences, and I'll talk about a few in a minute, location-based experiences. There are also point-of-sale experiences where people build kiosks that have augmented reality experiences. Legos did a good job at this. There was a Lego experience at toy stores, and when a kid would hold up the Legos box to this camera, it would open up a virtual box and show them what was inside and show them what kind of toys they could make, what kind of experiences they could make. So immediately, you know that kid was asking, Dad, can I have these Legos now, please? then there's also some real-world applications where now those glasses I'm showing there's a pair of glasses, ski goggles for skiers. When they're on the slopes, it can give them their elevation. It gives them all the information about where they are, where they're moving toward. So it helps to make them a better skier, right? You know where you are on the slopes. But today, the reason I've added one more, even more advanced and useful application, near-field communications. How many of us are familiar with near-field communications? Right, okay, Apple phones are supposed to have it. We know Google phone has it with the Google Wallet, where you can make purchases with Citi card, MasterCard. You can hold up your Google Wallet phone and do a pay pass and make a purchase. Well, the next level of this, there's an Android application now that will enable people to bump phones. I know Apple has an app like this where you can bump phones and share information. So think of how far we can go with near-field communication devices that can talk to one another and the kinds of enriched experiences at point of sale that we can create for consumers. One of the main questions that people tend to ask about augmented reality, because they think it's hokey and gimmicky, they want to know, is there any ROI? Are there any cases that have been useful and proven? Oh, one thing I did want to go back and say. For AR to work, for the consumer, it must provide utility and it must be easy to use. It can't be complicated, and that's why on that spectrum I have things from simple experimentation. A lot of times when people see QR codes, they don't know what to do with them. There's no instructions there. If you're not familiar with QR codes, you don't know what to do. But then there are other applications where you easily know what to do. If you download Google Goggles, are we all familiar with that? Google Goggles is an app that you hold up to an item, say like the Brooklyn Bridge, and it will tell you what that is. Say you're a traveler, you don't know where you are. There's also apps with foreign languages. You can hold up to foreign language signs, augmented reality apps, and they bring back the information in your language. So this is where this is all going. And some of that location-based stuff that provides utility, Quiznos has an augmented reality app. So if you're hungry, you're in an area, you love Quiznos, you'll know where your local Quiznos is. Hotels.info also has an augmented reality app that you're in an area, you're tired, you're looking for a place to rest. You can find a hotel close to you. You can read other people's reviews about the hotel. You can find the best prices, and you get a map that takes you there, right? So this is all exciting. So here are some ROI cases, and I wish I had some of the videos here, but we're pressed for time, so I can't show them all. But this was Zoo Records, and this was a project that took place in Hong Kong. And a record label got together with one of the big ad agencies in Hong Kong, and what they did was, around the city, like on animals, they had these different animals, and they put up QR codes, and there was some advertising about it, and it was toward the youth market, and they wanted to promote this niche music coming out of Hong Kong with their record label. And so they had these QR codes all over the city, and if you held up your phone to one of these QR codes on one of the animals, you got to hear the music, you got to sample the music, and you also got to download music and buy it right on the spot. So what was happening was there was a lot of flurry of activity. People were sharing it socially on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, so much so they couldn't even count it. More than half of the 14 bands that were promoted sold out their music in the first week that this experiment took place. And it won a Gold Lion in the direct marketing category. So this was an excellent example. There's another example on a website called dabs.com, Acer Computers. Now this wasn't a mobile example, but it also shows something you could do with a mobile experience. What a person was able to do when they visited the site, they were able to print out a strip, then hold the strip up to their webcam, and then they got to experience a little virtual computer, like almost in the palm of their hands. So they can get an idea of the size of the computer, what it looked like. It was a virtual computer, sounded a little hokey, but for this particular company, 13% of those who actually chose to live this experience bought the computer. And 70% of those who visited the site and clicked on the ad used the experience. So the conversion rate was higher than industry standard. This is another one that I love. Tissot Watches, they ran a reality campaign online and outside of their stores. And what you did was you selected a watch that you'd like to try on, you held it up, you got more information about it, and they tracked this campaign online and outside their stores, and they saw a rise of 85% in sales of their watches. I think that's pretty amazing. But I'm excited by the even more realistic applications, the ones where I talked about SoLoMo, really in the shopping experience, really affecting the purchase funnel. And there's a new company called Gold Run that builds augmented reality apps. And here's a little sample of what they do.
Gold Run, a brand new reality. Download the free Gold Run app from the iTunes Store. Use Facebook Connect. Choose which runs to follow. Start grabbing virtual goods and collecting rewards. Share your photos with friends on Facebook. Augmented reality plus virtual goods equals real rewards. Start being a Gold Runner.
So
Gold Run, a brand new reality. Visit www.goldrungo.com.
One project that Gold Run did was with H&M stores. And what they did, and you saw a sample of that a bit, was they enabled people to download the app, take photos of items in the store window, download it as virtual goods, and get coupons and discounts that they could go in and use immediately. But then they were also able to share with their friends, you know, to carry on the word of mouth and make this virtual, more virtual. They also had an application they did with Airwalk where they did pop-up stores. So in your location, they had like pop-up stores at Washington Square Park and so on, and you could go and buy this. And another augmented reality app that I really like a lot, RGA did it with Converse. And what you could do is you could go to this Converse store on this AR app, and you pick out a shoe that you like, and you hold it up to your foot, and you could see what it's like, what that shoe would look like on your foot, if you really like it or not, right? That's like the reality of shopping. That's changing the experience. That's providing someone with an experience. I'm not at the store. I really want to check out some Converses right now. I love Converses. This is a pair I want, I like. This is great for me. Experiences. It's all about creating experiences. Meeting them where they are in the purchase funnel and creating realistic experiences for them. And so just a little on the future of augmented with NFC. Just imagine that we'll be able to put markers on things, like I can mark that seat, you know, whatever your name is, that you were here, and the next person can come and see that you were here. So think as marketers what we could do, how we could put markers on products and at stores and in locations and around local areas. Now the only problems we're going to have is there's going to be a problem with virtual air rights. Yeah, it's like who owns all this space out here, and how are we going to pay for all these virtual ads that are going to be all over the place? Because that's what's going to eventually happen. There's going to be like virtual billboards that look like Times Square, but instead it's virtual. So we're going to have to tackle that problem as we move further along with augmented reality. But I'm excited about the possibilities. NFC, right now, people in New Jersey Transit, they can purchase their tickets for New Jersey Transit with their Google Wallet phone. So imagine one step further, as this picture is showing, you could see who has a ticket, doesn't have a ticket. There's so many ways and so many possibilities to take this. And as I said, I'm Lynn, and I'm excited about augmented reality for marketing.
Thank you, Lynn. So, we are now going to move into our next speaker, and I want to set the stage for him by reminding you of a story that we all probably saw because it was floating about a year or so ago. There was this guy, a normal guy, but happened to be straight and happened to like certain forms of reality TV, and he discovered, he discovered that TiVo had presumed from the things that he was recording that he was gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, right? But he wasn't. And he was in a continued argument with his TiVo where he started changing the things that he was recording. So he went from recording things on the Bravo channel to a lot of sports and war movies, all in an attempt to convince his TiVo that the TiVo had made a wrong deduction. And what that shows, but he failed, by the way, what that shows is that who we are on the outside and who our normal, who the normal apparatus of advertising tags us as is not necessarily the same as what we watch. And so there's that gap, that delta between who the internet thinks we are, who advertising thinks we are, and who we are, is in fact where our next speaker really hangs his hat. So his name is Dan Neely. He is the CEO and founder of Networked Insights. He's going to share with us some of the gaps between who the industry thinks we are and who we really are based on what we watch. Please welcome Dan Neely. Take it away.
How's everyone doing today? Let's give another round of applause for Lynn. I thought it was a great presentation. Yeah? All right, I have two of these. We'll see which one works. Okay. Do we have slides up? Perfect, thank you. So part of the discussion today is I want to at least set the table. And so, as marketers, we've generally pushed our messages out there, and we've done a relatively good job at getting people to listen to what we have to say. The challenge that has happened is consumers are now pushing their messages out as well. They're pushing them out at a rate that's far beyond what any marketer or the entire collective of marketers can potentially push out there. There just aren't enough. There's not enough time. There's not enough talent in order for us to be able to compete with them. So what this has created is it's created a very hazy point of view in which how do we get people to ultimately understand what it is we want to tell them? And so it's created this massive amount of information and this massive amount of data. We hear very frequently that marketers, CMO, and on down agencies are kind of drowning in the data. So our point of view, certainly at Networked Insights, and how we think about the business and how we think about marketing is there is a different way for us to approach this problem. And it isn't the way in which we've been approaching it for the last 60 years. And so when we're really honest with ourselves, when we get into that confessional booth, we really are doing the same things we've been doing for the last 60 years. And so we need to think about a different way to do that. Well, it's not that one, it's that one. Okay. So how as marketers do we talk? We talk this way, we talk that way, we talk my way. And fundamentally, the challenge here is we're creating a bunch of things. I mean, how many of you have got, other than the Super Bowl where we love to watch those commercials, how many of you got really pissed off at the commercial? You've seen that banner ad come up and you've said some four-letter words that you don't really like. And you've got these things that are blocking you from your experience across the web. As consumers, that's really hard, right? You're like, these things are trying to get in my way rather than just being part of my ecosystem and part of my life. Whether it be my digital life, whether it be my real life, or the thing that I'm trying to ultimately do. So that's the challenge that we have in place, and that's one of the challenges that exists with the way we think about marketing today. Now, consumers and customers, right, they want to do it their way. And they don't want to do it your way. There's no way they want to do it your way. So what they're doing is they're creating this massive ecosystem of information about themselves. They're leaving digital footprints all across the web. They're leaving these things that we can learn from, that we can use and leverage. And by leveraging them, we think, okay, this is kind of a cool thing. That they're leveraging each other to get to answers that often a marketer used to be provided by going to their .com, right? I would go to someone's .com, I'd learn about something. Oh, that's the answer. I'm going to buy that product. That no longer is the way, and no longer is the way that consumers think about the space. And so I don't think I'm telling you guys anything new in that paradigm, but we really need to understand that we can't use the same ways that we've been doing things for the last 60 years and expect to get a different outcome. It just got more complicated. Everyone's on the web creating messages every single moment, and we're trying to create messages at the same time and at the same rate as marketers, and it just won't work. So this is how marketers get data, right? Whether it be from Nielsen McKinsey, whether it be from Booz Allen for segmentation, whether it be from so Nielsen data for TV, whether it be Q scores and E scores for celebrities, whether it be focus groups. You get a burst of information, you make a decision on it, and then you keep moving. But the problem is when you've got to make another decision, you'll go back to that same piece of information. And so think about a TV commercial, right? So if I put a TV commercial out there, I've used this great platform of information that comes from those 4 sources that I just talked about. And I've got this, and I've made this cool decision, and I put a TV commercial out there, and then I test it, and I wait 6 weeks later, and I get an answer to say it didn't work. Now I know 6 weeks later it didn't work, and I've got to redo it again, and 6 weeks after that, I know whether it worked or not. And maybe it did that time. An entire quarter has gone past, and I'm still basing this on a set of information that's really dated. And so I have to get past this single piece of information, this piece of information that's sporadic at best, because the way we've done it is 60 years old, right? We have to find a different way to do it. This is how customers talk today. It's constant, it's always on. It's all in bits and bytes, right? I mean, this is illustrative, obviously, to say, okay, the amount of information that's being created needs to be segmented in some way. It isn't the fact that 1 billion people in social are engaging with each other that we can learn and listen to them. It's the fact that we can segment that data to inform TV, to inform media, to inform creative, to inform other advertising, to inform search. That's what we care about, because this is how customers talk to each other. This is how they engage with each other, and we have to figure out how to make sense of that. That's the challenge. That's the challenge that we take on every day at Networked Insights. So these two dynamics are at odds, right? We get information in a burst, we make decisions on it, and it's fine, it's 3 months old, it's roughly correct, let's move on. That no longer can be the way. I mean, if you listen to what Brad described on the front end of this, it was because a system trying to make decisions based on dated information. And we can't really blame ourselves as marketers for this problem existing. It's not to point fingers. It's our DNA hasn't been used to this type of information. It hasn't been used to a constant stream of information, a constant stream of data. I would argue in digital we're better at it than we are in traditional, but we're still not used to it. We still plan campaigns, launch campaigns, measure campaigns. We're not always on. And so there are movements that are happening to say we need to be always on if we want to be in the ecosystem of our customers. We have to be able to move at their speed. Otherwise, we will miss the things that make us more efficient. Certainly, you can continue to operate in the paradigm you're operating today, but you will spend more money and you will become less and less efficient. You have massive amounts that you're trying to put your message out there, they're trying to put their message out there. The two will meet when you spend enough money, but it's really inefficient to get there. So why not use this set of information to get more efficient at it? So I'll run through a couple of examples of places where it's kind of, it's been somewhat problematic. So what happens when you don't use this type of information? So how many people in here play the game Sorry, or have played the game Sorry? There's more than 5 of you, I promise you. So it's interesting, the game of Sorry. What happens when you use traditional research and getting to a traditional platform of information, you will find that moms love playing games with their kids. That's not that insightful, really. That's what I would expect. You get to understand that they love family game night. You would expect that as well. What you will not find out in the traditional platform of information is that they only want to play games for 30 minutes with their children. You want them to play more than 30 minutes. They really don't want to do that. right? They'll never admit it. Can you imagine sitting in a room full of other mothers and you're saying, you know what, I really don't want to play with my kids. And all the other mothers looking at you saying, yeah, I'm calling child services on you, right? That's just not going to happen. So when we think about that, that allows companies like Hasbro to launch Sorry Express, which is a 30-minute version of Sorry. So, but I can only get to that insight if I'm using real-time information and unbiased information. Let's go to another example. How many people here drink Mountain Dew? Quite a few of you. My friend Shiv will be very happy. So I think about Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew is a killer brand, right? They go after extreme sports junkies. They go after, hardcore males, if you will. And they like to look at, that specific segment. But how do you find that non-intuitive segment? How do you find out that there's a set of, again, we'll use mothers. How do you find out there's a set of mothers that young mothers admit that they love Mountain Dew because it helps them stay awake because they have a newborn child? I don't think anyone's ever going to admit that in a traditional method and mode that exists today. They will admit it in the place we call social media today, and they'll admit it in spades, and we'll be able to leverage that. They'll also admit that they don't really like the connotations of colas, right? So whether it be a Pepsi product or a Coca-Cola product, they don't really like to admit that because of the connotations that go with it. But this lemon and lime beverage, they'll admit that, hey, I love this, and oh, by the way, it has caffeine, and oh, it's fine with me because it allows me to stay awake. They'll admit that type of thing. So we won't have the miss, which is, I know how to market to my primary segments. What about my secondary and tertiary segments that I should be thinking about? How many people are familiar with Scion, the vehicle Scion? Quite a few of you. So Scion is an interesting product, right? So this was a blue ocean project for Toyota, where they wanted to go out and they wanted to have a product in the marketplace that was truly targeted towards a specific set of characteristics. And they wanted to go after it, and they said, you know what, again, this is a hardcore male. That's who we're going after. We want the person that loves, extreme sports. They love extreme, so like racing. They love gaming. It's the young male, if you will. And so they targeted them, and that's the reason they have a race car team today. But what you find is, so all of a sudden, when you use a traditional platform of information, the thing you miss is, again, that secondary segment or tertiary segment, which, you know what, it became a top 10 car for mothers. Now, if it became a top 10 car for mothers, wouldn't I want to know that before I placed all this money into a race car team because they love it because it has a 5-star crash test rating? They love it because it's not a minivan. They love it because I can get my baby seat in and out very easily. So all those things come together, and they're able to think about activating that, but it's after the fact. It's not using information in this real-time data source before. They're using it after they learn, okay, moms have already said because it's on the top 10 list, now I've learned about it, now I've got to go figure out how to get them. So let's stop reacting to the consumer, and let's start putting that data at the front end of the spectrum in the process rather than at the back end of the spectrum in the process. So here's what happens when you do use this information. Again, a real-time data set, something that can inform me so I can put my brand in sync with my customers. That's fundamentally what we're trying to do, right? We're not trying to do something that's out of sync. We have to do things that are in sync with our customer, otherwise our message will be lost in their message. So this may be a little small for you, so I'll read through it. But this basically, as we look at the target audiences, what are all my target audiences? We see here we've got some primary audiences. We've got gamers and we've got extreme sports fans. And we think those are our target segments. We're going to put all of our media dollars, all of our weight behind those segments. Those are the places we're going. But moms and millennials are as big. So if they're as big, shouldn't we be spending the same type of money there? Who is my target audience? What does my segmentation look like? The old world, right? The old world is about, I get a segmentation once every 9, 12 months, 5 years. That is not the world today, because that's not how your consumer reacts, right? So this comes from a report that we just did in context of with the folks at Mountain Dew, so you can get that at networkedinsights/Mountain Dew. But as we go to the next tier on this, I'll dive into moms. They knew the other segments, but they didn't know these unknown segments. How do we think about marketing and targeting them? And again, this isn't, so the data, if you think about the insight here is not necessarily a new insight, but the fact that you get it before everybody else. That's the thing here. We have a massive data set where we can start reacting in real time. We don't walk in with demographics. We don't say, I want to target 25 to 45-year-old males, that's who I want to go after. 25 to 45-year-old moms, that's who that isn't how we start this. We start it with who really cares about this? Who is passionate about what I'm doing? Let me go down that path. And so here we get to, there's two things on here. A demographic targeting criteria, which can be used in traditional advertising. We also have on the left-hand side an interest graph. What are the interests of my customer? Imagine if you could put yourself in their interest graph rather than trying to figure out how do I go and put something from a targeting standpoint in some of those other locations. Let me get them where they are when they're there. On media, think about spot-on media choices. I know what over-indexes with my target audience, right? I know that I should be buying these 3 shows. I know that when I go and do a movie integration, I should be thinking about The Help. I know that when I'm going to go get a musician to be my lead into my commercial, I should be thinking about Adele. I know that when I'm thinking about a spokesperson for my product, I should be thinking about George Clooney, Daniel Craig, Ashton Kutcher. Those are the things that, so putting that together to say, if they over-index with moms, I should be going after them, right? I should be using that as my leading indicator. Social media is not just about using it for social. Social media is about using it as a leading indicator for all media, all marketing, right? It is the fastest data set that's ever existed, and it is the largest, most unbiased data set that's ever existed. Now we have to segment it so we can make decisions on it. Content is a huge discussion set today, right? I think about content and, the number of brands where they're like, oh, we're going to create cool content. We're going to go license it, curate it, create it. But it's all based on gut. It's all based on the guts of the creative people, which is genius in my opinion. But that genius needs to be supported with data and analytics. No longer can we just have the creative genius that's saying, it is this idea that's going to work. Let's gauge whether they're going to perform or not, right? We walk into the room with creatives, they actually love us because the conversation they have with us is, you just took all the pressure off. You actually gave me some guidance to say, this is the content my audience cares about. I should put this in front of my 35 million fans on Facebook because I know it's going to work. That's the new world. The new world is not, I think this is going to work, I think that's going to work, oh, test and learn, test and learn. That isn't the new world because you'll just frustrate your customer as a result of it. So, this slide, knowing what's important, in the context of what your customer is trying to do allows you to stay in sync with that customer. You need to know it across all these things. I mean, for us, we use social data to inform brands, TV, music, celebrities, topics, games, movies. We use it to inform all of that. We've segmented the information, we've segmented the data so that we can actually make that decision and move that forward. So that's all I have today. If there are any questions, certainly I'm happy to answer them later on. Thanks very much. Thank you very much. Thanks.
35 years ago, I got my first big break. My dad's a high school art teacher, now retired. And one of his favorite students ever was a real friend of our family. And she was a photographer. She was always an artist. She started out in the medium of photography. And she got an opportunity to do a photo shoot for an article that Nora Ephron was doing on boobs. I didn't have a lot of them back then, 35 years ago, but it was my big first modeling break. I got to be in a photo shoot in a local magazine. I think it was like Delaware Magazine or Delaware Today or something like that. And it was a big experience for me to have this opportunity to be on this photo shoot with a trusted friend of the family who was going to show me the ropes so I wouldn't make a fool of myself. I think you've all had experiences where friends of your family have given you something as an opportunity, and it's helped you to take you to the next level. Well, Susan has, and her name is Flash Rosenberg, has gone on to become an amazing artist. She's done so much with her career. She's currently a Guggenheim Fellow. She's an artist in residence with the New York Public Library. She's made a career out of being an artist, which is no small thing to do, as you know. And she's come today to AdTech Inspire to do something that she calls drawing at the speed of talk. Flash is an entertainer and an artist and a photographer, and she's about to entertain you in a wildly new way. And I hope you'll enjoy it, and I hope you'll give her a warm welcome because she is the antithesis of tech geek. So please welcome Flash Rosenberg. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Hello. Yes, I am not the tech geek, but I really admire everything that's been going on. Now, you may be wondering, what does an artist in residence at a library do? Like it's mostly books and talks and things like that. Well, what I do is I draw the conversations between authors in this program called Live. And the point of that is to reintroduce the part that's missing from all this razzmatazz and tech. Like, what is it like to be in the audience, listening to somebody talk, listen to two people talk, and have their ideas mingle? How do we capture or make a portrait of the ideas? So what I'm trying to do is make a snapshot of these abstract thoughts. This is not court portraiture. It's not, caricatures. I'm not interested in the celebrity of who the author is, but what it is they have to say that makes sense that I really want to listen to. It's the way your notebook looks when you go back home and you sort of see the notes, but you're not connecting it perhaps with who said it anymore. It's about how it affects you. So I'm doing this kind of work with my hand in the image so you see that it's a real person. I'm not trying to be an animator. I'm not doing characters. And here's a sample. It's called Learning from the Absurd. It's a discussion of William Kentridge, who's been accused of being the first main world artist of the 21st century. He's from South Africa, and he's in conversation with Paul Holdengraver. Take a look.
William Kentridge, the notion of inspiration. Where do ideas come from? How do you happen on things? And I don't know if you know this line of Leonard Cohen, who said that if he knew where inspiration came from, he would go there more often.
All I can do is I can find strategies to enable ideas to happen. And I know the one way they don't happen is by trying to write down good ideas. They can happen through this kind of improvisation. They can happen through striding around the room.
Pacing.
They can come from fortunate pieces of mistranslation or misunderstanding, much more often than from pieces of good, clear reasoning or understanding.
Say a little bit more about productive misunderstanding. I love the term, and I think I might use it from now on.
When my daughter Alice was about 3, I was telling her a story about a cat. The cat was being chased by a dog, and the cat ran through the cat flap and was saved. And I heard her retelling the story. Cat was being chased by the dog, but it flapped its wings and escaped. And so it was what we do when we hear things which we half understand. We're constructing possible ways that they could be right. An energy of generation of thought and solution. But there is something about stalking an image, about simply pacing around and around the studio until either a moment of decision or a moment of certainty for the first mark. One of the things about strolling or walking, and trying to work out what is the degree of tension you have while moving or while drawing or while making a performance. And you can very often divide things into very clear different degrees of tension. Say the first level, the most relaxed level, the lowest level of tension. And then one could go up a level in which would kind of correspond to a stroll. And then you get to a 4th degree of tension, which sometimes happens as the drawing is getting closer. And that has to be when there's a kind of an intention, a desire. So you don't simply walk, but you go somewhere because you want to get there. And then a 6th degree of tension would correspond to a kind of passion, when things are really, which would be like commedia dell'arte, where everything is very emphatic and a statement is made, not just because you're interested in it, but because you have to say it. When you're drawing, it has a very strong and clear and gestural mark in it. But it's trying, and really I'm supposed to find the grammar of performance. By the grammar of a performance, I mean the difference between having an idea and then seeing how to realize it. So, for example, the production of The Nose, which is on at the Met. For those of you who've seen it or will see it, there's a large papier-mâché nose which has to be carried by someone. It's a separation of your body so that the top part keeps a kind of rigidity and maybe turns, and that the legs can have an activity underneath it. So that's a kind of a grammar of that particular object.
So you wouldn't walk similarly, let's say, if you were walking with an ear than if you were walking with a nose?
No, I think that's right.
And it's quite important,
No, because
actually.
you see, with an ear is a circular object. So there's a sense of a circular movement built into the way an ear might listen. It's the same way when you're drawing a cat, for example. A cat, the principle of a cat is its spine. So a cat is always a line. So you draw any rough line, and you smush around with charcoal around it, and you've got a cat moving. Okay? Whereas a dog is always led by its nose. So you have a single point that's moving, the way a dog sniffs, which is different. So that's a kind of a grammar of animals, if you want to say, for drawing or for performing.
And slowness is a virtue for you.
You have to work really fast to do something that is slow. Particularly in animation, you understand that the more images you make, when you project it, the slower a movement becomes. So if you want a really slow movement, you have to be working at double speed, very fast, very hard, very long. And the longer and faster you work, the gentler and slower the movement becomes. Says one can talk about drawing as taking a line for a walk. And the question I was asking, are we walking the line, or is the line like a dog walking us?
One of my very favorite lines in Nabokov is, if two parallel lines do not meet, it is not because meet they cannot, but because they have other things to do.
To extend that metaphor, to think of parallel lines as being, if you have to say, one of which is the world as we live it, and the other is the world as we describe it in art.
So clearly, thank you. I'm not really drawing that fast, but you imagine that it's a 90-minute talk, and what I'm trying to do is make, if I said it already, a snapshot of the text that matters to make a 5-minute summary that was sort of what I took away from the piece. And in contrast to all the high-tech things, this is one of the lowest tech things. I mean, it's a notch beyond cave painting. I mean, essentially what I did is that I began doing this. You think, well, how doesn't, there wasn't like a job to be artist in residence at the library. What happened was I just thought it'd be interesting to just draw what was being said. When you draw what's being said, you sometimes can hear more rapidly when nothing is being said. If there's nothing to do, nothing to draw, it's not really an idea. So I was doing it on a pad of paper in my lap, and all the images were blended together, and at the end it just looked like a jumbled piece of gift wrap. Some of the graphic illustration you've seen when people do talks. They get this big, massive thing that's a drawing. And somehow it just didn't read unless you were at the event. So then I was called upon, one time there was a show about quotations, and we had this idea that I would do the quotes from people, you know, who were in the audience. And I thought, oh, I'll get a big pad of paper and draw it with a marker. Because that's what I did at the talent show when I had Susan's father for an art teacher. And somebody in the AV department wheeled out this little Elmo, one of those visual presenters, a document camera, and said, you know, nobody even needs these things anymore, but, you know, you can draw on it and it'll project it live. And so what I'm doing is I'm recording it on one of these little overhead projector-looking things, a document camera that's patched into a video camera, which is working as a VCR, and then just editing it all together. Let's see. I mean, part of what this comes from is a whole life spent doing perception games. I didn't really major in an or an ist. I didn't want to be a photographer. I didn't want to be an artist. I didn't want to be a marketer or a scientist. I just wanted to major in a question, and I've been spending my whole life trying to figure out what that is, which is, how do we know the things we know when we haven't been told? Like, how is it you go into a party and you go over and meet that person? You know, how is it that you go into a department store and you touch that sweater? I know that all of you in this audience probably actually have reasons and solutions, but I think it's not just marketing, it's not just history or psychology or art, it's all kinds of things, and that's what my exploration is about. And that's why I took up photography, but not in a way that made single pictures, but as a way of talking. So now I'd like to show you an excerpt from a 70-minute show that's called Laughing at the Speed of Light, where I talk a little bit, well, you'll see. Focus, we don't need to focus. Welcome to the end of the end. Nothing is over anymore. Oh, let's see. Oh, I forgot a prop. Anyway, the film age was linear. I was going to show you a roll of film. One frame after another, the roll of film ended. Friends we had in high school were done. They were over, but now they're back on Facebook. Knowing someone never ends. But in our digital world, it's all happening at once. It's a splurge in every direction. But what's going to happen to negative film? It still looks good. So I turned it into fashion. So now I have some naturally curly clothes. And the important thing is to not let digital technology upset you. You have to make the best of it. I mean, we get to stay here on Earth. I think we get to live as long as things don't upset us too much. When you can't take it anymore, well, you've got to go. By this logic, I can handle kids who got pierced and tattooed to try to upset my generation. Because I know someday they're going to have kids who will have to do something worse to upset them. That grown tot is going to come home someday with a video camera in her eye. What? You took out a perfectly good eye to install a video camera? What? You sacrificed your ear to download music directly into your head? At that point, barbed wire on a bicep or a pierced lip will seem rather mild. Right now, we are enjoying the good old digital days because we can still hold all our gizmos in our hands. We can turn them off. We can put them down. It's partly why I like to have the hand when I do the drawing with the animations. And this is a wonderful time because I have proof that digital technology means the end of problems. Throughout all of history, what did humans have? Problems. Ask anyone, how are you? I've got a problem. But problems are over. I didn't make this up. I discovered it when I called Adobe because I was having a problem with their software. And I was told, that's not a problem. It's a known issue. Ah, so how do we solve the known issue? We don't solve them. We have workarounds. Hooray! Problems are over. Stop the solving. Oil leaking into the Gulf? That's a known issue. The workaround? Drill more holes. Known issue. I was too busy this week to make an image to go here. The workaround? Black slide. But now that problems are over, it may sound like life is easier. But in fact, digital technology can also make things much more complicated. This egg, for example. Say you want to eat a hard-boiled egg. In analog times, you would capture it, boil it, one tap, peel it, eat, 5 steps. Now here we have a digital egg. You have to capture it as a raw file, heat it, offload it, back it up, rename and number the files. Now we have to digitally process it. Eggs over easy is over. Instead, we have eggs over saturated. This means that this egg must be color corrected. Now it's too yellow, too purple, too green. No color, it's black and white, too old-fashioned. Okay, good enough. Now save it. Wait, it's spinning. Still spinning. Don't forget, back it up. And save it in a remote location. Reboot. Wait, more spinning. Reduce the file format. Flatten it to reduce the file size, and in 18 steps, you may now instantly eat your digital egg. The whole ballet for looking has changed. I used to just notice, but now I have to stop and notice what I just noticed. Oh, look, the people I just saw are there. In the future, this is true, it's predicted by the year 2020, society will no longer even need a dedicated photographer to cover an event. The technology in your cell phone will be turned into something like an optical dandelion, and anyone in any location will be able to capture the variations of light and dark. then all aspects of cropping, depth of field, exposure, focus will be edited on a computer by someone who may not have actually been there. The idea of hiring a photographer with some special awareness to capture the story while it's happening will seem unbelievably quaint. Memories will be created, not captured. Our sense of what happened, our sense of what is true will be reversed. Although, don't you miss these film containers? I mean, where are we going to store our medications or glitter? But not to worry, a new container has arrived, which is perfect to hold bagels. And I brought them here so I can give one to Susan, another one to Warren, so they have their genuine New York bagel in a nice, safe-keeping place where you can travel back to wherever you came from and have fresh bagels in your DVD cases. Now I'm working out what to do with my old slide trays. Well, I'd like to leave you with a little bit of practical advice. You know, as a photographer, you know, we're very concerned with appearance, so I thought I would offer you the one ultimate beauty tip, which is forget it. Forget the colors, creams, and powders. Forget diet, exercise, and surgery. The way to appear beautiful is to make people laugh. It's a physiological fact. When people are laughing, their eyes get really squinty and they can't see you very well. So if they look at you while you're laughing, you look great. Oh, here we have white light. Yes, the miracle of light. Because of light, we can see. Photography is about capturing light. Yes, this is the moment where we stop and appreciate light. Please, everyone, give it a big applause. Thank you. You see, everyone complains about technical difficulties, but I figure if we stop and congratulate the gear on its technical facility, it won't have to break down to get our attention. Now, right now, you're probably wondering, how fast is the light coming from those projectors up to the screen, then back out into your eyes, so we all could be perceiving this moment together? What, you weren't wondering that? Me neither. So what is the big deal about the speed of light? I mean, Einstein got a lot of mileage out of it, but how fast am I talking? At the speed of talking. How is it possible to get a speeding ticket when a car can only go at the speed of a car? This is more like physics according to Gertrude Stein, not Einstein. Besides, I want to know something far more complicated, far more complex. I don't think we're ever going to solve it. I don't want to know the speed of light. I want to know the length of matter. When someone leaves you and it hurts, how long will it matter? Oh, and this just in, the speed of food. It says here in the nutrition facts, serving size, 1/4 of a second. Who eats 1/4 of a second worth of food? We all know these things underestimate serving sizes, but I believe that food should come in a minimum of 10-minute increments. Which brings us to pizza. Pizza is the most perfect food. Fortunately for me, living in New York, it grows wild on every corner. And pizza is perfect because it provides the minimum daily adult requirements for infinity. You bite the point, you get 2 points. Bite those 2 points, you get 4 points. 4 points, you get 8 points. 8, you get 16, you get the point. Well, the fun thing about infinity is the more bites you have to eat, the less pizza there is to eat. And it is exactly this logic of pizza infinity that accounts for how it is you can love someone forever, yet it can end. This is the saddest slide of the whole show to me. I mean, not just because there's no more pizza, but it means we've run out of time. Thank you very much. It's not the end. We get to mingle afterwards and talk. You can ask me some questions, and you can come out and say what you need to say.
The end, I'm sorry to say.
I know. No, but it's not the end because there's more talking, there's more seminar, there's more conference, you're going to say things. It doesn't end. This is just one little patch in the midst of the whole thing.
That's right. That's right. It's not the end. We actually have a long show ahead of us. And right now we're going to take another one of our standing breaks. So please, everybody stand up. Remember, there are no excuses. We can pull the house lights up, please. We've had quite a journey for the last 2 hours, and we have a very exciting session coming in about 3 minutes. So please find somebody you don't know, Introduce yourself to that person. Don't go far. We're starting in 3 minutes. All right?